Hello, everyone, and welcome to the launch of issue 5 of Sonder. We hope you're all keeping well and are ready for a night of wonderful readings from a very talented bunch. It's been a busy year for us here at Sonder. Earlier this year, we did our mini series, Readings from a Time of Returning, where we got the chance to showcase some brilliant pieces from our past contributors. It's always such a treat to get to continue sharing the talent of such lovely creators. We also held our Panorama Flash Fiction Writing Competition, and as usual, we're overwhelmed by the response. Thank you so much to everyone who took part. It's always a pleasure to get the chance to read your fantastic work. The winning pieces of the competition can be found on our website. We've linked it below in the description box. We are delighted to say that the winning piece, Drifting by Cormac Kilkeen, is featured in this issue, and the man himself will be kicking things off a little later. I will now pass you on over to Sinead. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the night.
Hello, Gachainia, and thanks again for joining us. I'm Sinead, co-editor of Sonder Magazine. We learn a lot with each issue and somehow manage to find new contributors that are just as dazzling and important to us as the last time. We can't wait for you all to hear and read what they have in store. Earlier this year, we were asked yet again by Carol McGill from Morning Coffee to collaborate on our second annual short story competition. We're shocked she hasn't wanted to get rid of us yet. In doing so, we managed to raise over €1,300 for the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre. For those who aren't aware of their services, the RCC offer free confidential listening and support service for women and men who have been sexually abused at any time in their lives. They also run prevention campaigns. Please do consider donating directly at their website, which we will link in the description box below. The sum raised is, of course, thanks to everyone who submitted and donated. Your support has meant the world. Pre-orders for issue 5 were run in collaboration with a very special giveaway from Blackwater Writing, a writer's resource service offering expert tips and tricks on how to get your writing published. Jamie O'Connell from Blackwater Writing has very kindly agreed to offer one lucky winner a free 30-minute online fiction consultation. The giveaway closed on Monday, the 13th of September, and we will announce the winner at the end of the night. First up, we have our Panorama Flash Fiction Competition 2021 winner, Cormac Kilkeen. Cormac is a writer of poetry, fiction and short stories. He lives and works in Galway and is completing a BA Connect in creative writing in NUI Galway, returning to university full-time as a mature student in 2018. His work has been published in The Burning Bush, Skylight 47 and the Wild Word poetry magazines. He believes writing should knock the air from a reader's lungs, give them something to go into the world with, or sit in their head like a waiting spider. Sometimes all three, but it must be line by line, no wasted words. Welcome, Cormac.
Thanks very much. It's lovely to be here, and good evening to everybody. I hope you like this. This is Drifting. Jesus, this wind is cold. You can feel the north in it. All icy edges inside the neck and gusting numbness into the face. Even a hoodie won't stop it. The night sky is a black loom and the stars are just hidden by the clouds, and the moon lights the ridges with silver. I can hear some shouting already, and the roars echo back and forth as they wind down over the dank hills. I look at Alex lying beside me, and he looks at me, but it doesn't reach to his eyes. He only came along because of me, I know that, and the strands of moonlight make him look whiter than he is, and his eyes are looking on something through my head and beyond, and it hurts to turn my head, but I do, and I can just make out a break in the clouds, and the sky is like dark cobalt. It's beautiful, but I can see it and Alex can't. I look at the windscreen fractured with screeching lines, and the moonlight is like breakers in the ocean, all foaming white upon it. I can see the edge of the road off in the distance, too tall for me, for the car that we're in. I can remember the road leaving, the wheels, the spinning into black air with silence behind it, and a tree growing out of the headlights and snaring us out of the air, and something fell on us for the first time. At the edge of my eyes where it hurts to look, I see sputtered than a drench of red and a shape in the grasses below, and I know it's Barry, and he knows where the money is. I look at Alex again. My eyes are the only things that can move, and I know something terrible has happened. His eyes have dreamt up a surface of marble. He looks like a religious painting, and his life was a thread that brought him to this unknowing, where the world snatched him out and threw him elsewards. He didn't know anything. I want to make that clear. Oh, he didn't know. He was only along for the ride. I want to feel sad, but I can only remember how it feels, like hearing music drifting down a hallway or notes of running water. It's strange to think like this detachment, each pulse in my head forming into the night air in droplets and floating away. This run would have made everything all right. A new clean road to turn upon. Now that's all gone too. Every plan like a hissing ripple. Everything is closing in pockets about me, and I don't mind. There is now only my sliding racked pearls of breath. And a Cheshire crescent sneaks out from the seam of the clouds, and movements shadow into figures moving slowly, hooked to the beams of their flashlights. The grass dances in the wind, offering up prayers, and I didn't think something could be so beautiful. There is movement up the tree, and a face that says because moves level with my door, and as the creak of steel preferring its dents. I don't want them to see my eyes. I don't want them to see I'm still here. I can feel it drifting with the wind, and I feel like spores cast into wet night. As the door opens, as the light tips into height and distance, as I move, I can feel something vast, something welcoming. There is movement through everything, and I'm gone like a face in the curtains. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cormac, for that. It's lovely to hear that haunting piece being read aloud again. Next up, we have Fiona McPhillips. Fiona is a journalist and author. Her work has appeared in Barron Magazine, Atticus Review, Hobart, and other lovely places. Her first novel, Underwater, was runner-up for the 2021 Crime Writers Association Debut Dagger Award. She is a reader for the Forge Literary Magazine and is studying for an MA in creative writing at Dublin City University. Welcome, Fiona.
Thanks so much, Orla, and Sinead too. It's really great to be here. I'm going to read from my short story, Broken Windows. There is a crack in everything. She thinks this when she sees the weeping willow dressed in autumn ochre, draping its melancholy across a path buckled by roots. As she steps out into the road, Ryan takes her hand, but the weft of his grip feels like a shackle. She unfurls her fingers and he slows his pace, letting her move away from him. They've been surviving for so long on intuition and guesswork that there is no precedent for a day like this. Not in Ryan's world anyway, where average families have normal expectations instead of a cracked window on the world. Her mum used to say that a broken pane of glass meant nobody cared, so she would fix it and Nina would feel secure again until the next time. The laughter from the nearby playground almost stops her in her tracks. She is 7, cornered and alone, Chloe Dixon leading the chant. Nina's dad's a dipso, and Nina not understanding, throwing the insult back at her. Actually, my dad's a solicitor, she'd said, and Nina had carried that lesson all the way to a legal career of her own. It's not cherry blossom season, but the tree is still there, as tall as the house now. Its windows peek through the branches, not a crack to be seen. Gravel covers the oil-stained concrete where his Austin Metro used to sit on breeze blocks, picked apart for booze money. Baskets of flowers hang from the porch. Nina thinks it's just a house. She doesn't think of the sound of his key scratching against the front door, her mum's head slamming into the wall, the blood painting a line on it as she slid to the floor. She doesn't hear the sirens or see the glare of the headlights against the frozen shutter of the window. This is someone else's home now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fiona. Such a beautiful piece, loads of beautiful imagery as well. Thank you for sharing it with us. Next up, we have Katie Freeney. Katie is a multidisciplinary artist working with photography, video, performance, and writing. She is obsessed with the surreal and the mysterious, taking cues from artists like David Lynch and Miranda July, and enjoys creating emotive work that brings audiences to their own conclusions. Welcome, Katie.
Thanks so much, Orla. So I'm going to read an excerpt now from my story, The Sun at 1 a.m. I'm thinking about Sophie again, and the flies, and the rain, and the sun at 1 a.m. Yellow strips falling from the ceiling like ribbons, dotted in little black corpses. I could have kissed you right there. Our tongues sticking like wings to resin, eyelashes fluttering by the embossed wallpaper, flowers rising like a rash. Sophie's the girl everyone wants to rob a bank with, or go to Vegas with, or West Cork, or just sit on some arse-cheek prickling concrete with, eating pastries and counting clouds. She's drunk even when she's sober, words slurring, eyes rolling, hands mauling. She can do any accent and makes the best jokes in any tent. We climb the wall at the back of the garden, catching the morning's first sun, our feet dangling, me in sky pink, her in baby blue. We ask the sun, who have you been keeping warm? What have you seen on the other side of the world all night? while we've been dancing in pseudo lights. A diary left behind after the session, brown and worn. He's been to the same gigs as me. He's fucked the same girls as me. His mother's name is Tom and his father's name is Tallulah, or maybe it was the other way around. He misses being a child, cereal and TV on a Saturday morning, 90s shopping centers and big movies. When did buying stuff stop being enough? Sexy plastic dolls and roll-on glitter perfume. When did movies become an abyss of landscape covers that won't shut up?
Thanks so much, Katie. The way you use words in that piece is just so mesmerizing. Thanks for reading that for us. So next we have Amy Clarkin. Amy is a writer from Dublin. She's currently working on an essay collection exploring illness and identity and a novel about paranormal investigations. She can generally be found drinking coffee, reading books, and asking people if they know any good ghost stories or if they would like to see a photo of her dog, which I would very much like to see. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an extract from my essay, Pleasure. There is often an expectation that when it comes to sex, we should know what we are doing without ever explicitly talking about it or being taught. That we, especially women, do not have many partners, yet are intuitively skilled in the arts of intimacy. Thankfully, those attitudes have ebbed a lot over recent years, but like ableism, like beauty standards, they've seeped into my mind against my will, against my own beliefs. And they send tendrils of shame and fear through my veins whenever I think too closely about sex and my naivety surrounding it. I do not know the right language to discuss it. I feel increasingly out of my depth whenever the topic is raised. While it is something I want in my life, I'm also afraid of it. It comes in part to vulnerability. I'm terrified of exposing myself, literally and metaphorically, of having to bear yet another part of myself to someone who may reject me for it. Featureless faces haunt my nightmares with cold eyes and harsh voices that tell me I am not enough for them. They mock me, scorn me, they rake judgmental eyes down my body, and I cringe under their gaze. I want, desperately, longingly, to reveal the shadows that lurk in my mind and have someone walk through them with me. I want to be that person for someone else too. Yet the thought of it sets all my nerves on fire and triggers a voice shrieking in my head, they will reject you. The voice is an echoing remnant of an eating disorder triggered by my illness, something that while I've made progress in combating still lurks in the wings, seizing any moment of doubt or insecurity to try to sink its claws into my mind. It tells me that others will judge my body for how it looks, that they will dislike it for not working the way others do. And even though the rational part of me tells me firmly, rightly, that anyone worth being with will navigate these things with me, that good sex is about trust and intimacy as much as stamina and expertise, the voice whispers, not for you. You are not worth it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy, for sharing such an honest piece, and you read it so beautifully, so thank you so much. Next up, we have Cheryl Vale. Cheryl, originally from New Jersey and now calling Dublin, Ireland home, is a software product manager by day and strives to be as non-technical as possible outside of the office. While previously unpublished, she has been writing since she could scribble on any available surface. She writes essays, short stories, but mainly focuses on her first love, poetry. When not working or writing, she can be found traipsing around Dublin looking for inspiration or spending time with friends. Welcome, Cheryl.
Thanks so much, Orla and Sinead. So I'm going to read my poem, We Live in These Moments. Morning, between breaths that caress the top of my head, as I sense the percussion of your rhythm section, pat my cheek to a beat we both feel. I stroke the spot that sends a laughter line down your spine, adjust my touch to range over your chest, following the path my sighs have mapped. Afternoon, footfalls on pavement, I tug on your charcoal jacket, You slow your country, turned city slicker pace, tuck my arm into the crook of yours. We discuss modernist authors, brutalist versus Gothic architecture, or which cafe will provide the best full Irish to sustain us through our latest visit to the gallery. I wipe a hint of sauce from the corner of my mouth. You proclaim that was a grand cup of tea. We forget to chastise the clouds for the bits and bobs of rain seeping into our coats when we check them. We wend through the patient halls, linger near paintings. We pretend to understand. I write poetry in a scrap of notebook. You explain the artist's histories, and like waves to the shore, return. Your warmth radiates behind me. My skin trembles. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. It's honestly such an honor to publish that piece, and it was so good to hear it read out loud. Thank you. So next we have Shane McDonald. Shane is a writer from Dublin. He's a student of English with creative writing at UCD. His fiction has appeared in various literary journals such as Silver Apples magazine, The New Word Order and Caveat Lector, as well as the anthology Brevity is the Soul, Wit from Lockdown Ireland. He is the Agur Hor Gaelga for the University Observer at UCD and was nominated for a Student Media Award this year. Welcome, Shane.
Thanks very much. It's great to get the opportunity to read my work. So I'm going to read an extract from my short story called Near Karl-Marx-Strasse in Neukölln, Berlin. I'm writing about a man who kills children. I write him as 6'2" with dark hair and long spindly limbs. He wears slim, well-fitted clothes and maintains a sense of tidiness about himself. He doesn't kill children from a place of evil. He does it to save them from a life of misery. I'm writing about this man when Claudia quietly places a bowl of soup and bread on my table. Claudia and her husband Peter do this every so often on the days when I lounge in their small cafe just off Karl-Marx-Strasse. I look at her and, exhausting my knowledge of the German language, say, Danke schön. She smiles and leaves me with my notebook and my soup. Peter and Claudia's cafe is pleasant and quiet. The only interruptions occur outside. A team of workers negotiate a building that was recently discovered to be listing northwards, folding gently over the street below it. The noise of JCBs and drills and generators echo throughout the day. I'm of the opinion that Peter and Claudia lavish me with free lunches to persuade me not to leave in the midst of this chatter. Late June and the vast city swelters, shifting through midday into the humid afternoon. The contrast between my life at home and the short time in which I escaped to Berlin is not kind. 3 weeks ago I sat in the staff room, filling in report cards to notify parents of their children's latest disappointments. Physics does not learn itself. Extra effort required has become a catchphrase of mine. The soup is sweet potato. It is a warm day for soup, but I'm glad of a free lunch. The bread is tasty as always. Claudia catches my eye from the counter and I give her a thumbs up to show my satisfaction. She smiles again and turns to wipe the counter. She rests a hand on her swollen middle. She and Peter expect their first child by summer's end. At one point, she asked if I had any names for boys that I liked. I told her that I only had Irish names in mind, but she said she would like to hear them anyway. I told her that Art, Caoimhín and Padraig always came to mind. She touched her chin. They're nice names. Beautiful, she said. Thanks very much
for sharing your piece with us. Now, next up we have Christine Ann Foley. Christine is a Dublin-based writer from Kilkenny with a degree in English from Trinity College Dublin and a master's in creative writing from Oxford University. Her play, Let Your Hair Down, was performed at the Burton Taylor Studio in Oxford. Her poetry has appeared in literary journals, skirting around a neurological. Christine also runs a sustainable fashion blog called Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you so much, Orla. And I will be reading a piece I'll be reading my piece, Frozen Chips. Memories wash over me like a hangover, the blissful feeling of inebriation, now overshadowed by the nausea that coils in my stomach, a snake winding and flexing. Faces come back to me, flashing in and out of the blackouts. I brush my teeth too hard, and it tears the soft membranes, blood leaking onto the white bristles, filling my mouth with a metallic taste. I wipe my lips with the back of my hand, leaving a yellowy smear, toothpaste tinged with green lines of spearmint, rancid buildup of plaque pulled off the back of my teeth. I run my tongue around the inside of my mouth, a feral dog sniffing lampposts. When I get to the shop, I see the shadow of a man I used to know. Now married, he walks with his wife through the aisles of frozen produce. He once pushed me up against a galvanized door at the back of a library. Growing hard, he pressed his mouth to mine, tongue searching, desire probing, the promise of something, a future, a past. I smile in his direction. He takes his wife's hand. She picks up a bag of frozen chips, and I watch the condensation move from the bag to her fingers. It glistens there, right below the sparkling ring. He doesn't see me. I would never have cooked him frozen chips. I am haunted by this phantom hangover, and it rings loud between my ears. I am searching for a cure. It is not here, amongst the peas and Viennetta. A man moves out of my way. His trolley cries out as the wheels lock, and a loaf of bread falls heavy to the floor. I hear the sucking of freezer doors opening, the gentle pad as they close. I lean over the frosted glass. I pull one door over the other, and the coolness rises sharp and kisses my face. I put my hand deep inside, baskets lined with glossy bags. I grip the edge of a bag. The door slides back. I pull my hand up sharply, but I am too slow. It catches my finger. I use my other hand to free myself. Blood trickles from the wound, plop, right onto the produce. I let the door slide into place. The blood solidifies in the cold. You never cooked me frozen chips. Thank you.
Now, next up, we have Caroline Lawless. Caroline, hailing from Dublin and living in Wexford, writes creative non-fiction short stories and essays carved from her life experiences. Her work has appeared in Tether's End magazine and the Irish Times. Welcome, Caroline.
Thanks, Orla. Thanks, Sinead. I'm just going to read a short extract from my non-fiction piece, Then and Now. Then and Now. Wide-eyed, I watch with wonder as steam curls out from the top of the cup, spiraling upwards, silently dissipating. He adds a secret spoon of sugar, stirring quickly. Murmurs from the next room carry over into the kitchen where we stand side by side, my eyes peeping over the countertop. The sugar dissolves, unseen but present. Where does the sugar go, Grandad? Don't worry, it's there. I take a sip. The sweet tea rolls down my throat and hugs my belly from the inside out. Can you taste it? I nod my head, gently. I stand by the wall just behind a wide circle of people that knew him. The rectangular wooden box lies at our center. I keep my head down, afraid to see him. And yet, part of me wants to. Just one last time. I try to look up without moving my head, rolling my eyes to the extremes of their sockets. I catch a glimpse of him, my Grandad, still and unmoving, his mouth drawn like a line across a page. I close my eyes and imagine that at any moment he will sit himself up. He will smile. After the burial, his younger brother says hello to me. He looks exactly like him. He's here. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for sharing that with us. It was really, really beautiful. Thank you. So next we have Sinead McClure. Sinead is a writer, radio producer, and illustrator. Sinead's poetry and prose have appeared in Crossways Literary Magazine, Meet for Tea, The Valley Review, Live Encounters, Poetry and Writing Poethead, Drawn to the Light Press, The Cormorant Broadsheet, Dodging the Rain, A New Ulster, Step Away Magazine, and the Ekphrastic Review. In March 2021, Sinead won the Ovale 5 Words International Poetry Prize. Sinead has written 15 dramas for RTE Junior Radio on the themes of Ireland's nature, environment, and conservation. From a Sinead to a Sinead, welcome.
Thanks very much, Sinead and Orla, for inviting me to read. I'm going to read you the poem entitled Planting Charlotte. I place both hands in, feel the swell of earth where grit hardens and earthworms regurgitate to velvet. I turn tubers slowly, face chitted heads upwards, leave them to summer there. Shore them with my fingers. I will not rush this, even if I'm late again and Charlotte isn't happy. Soon her ringlets will grow, roots that curl beneath my hands. Each will bear a small white fruit, an apple of this ground. And if she's patient and the mists don't catch in the trees, blight won't spoil her. Too late for salads, her waxy flesh, wet with olive oil and feathered with rosemary, will roast us through the autumn.
Thank you so much, Sinead. It's such a beautiful poem. It's great to hear it read out loud. Thank you. So next we have Caitlin Lydon. Caitlin is a fiction writer currently studying for professional writing MA at Falmouth University. She has been published by Passengers Journal, and a story of hers was shortlisted for the London Independent Story Prize. She is slowly but surely working on a novel. Welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm just going to read a bit of an extract from my short story, Take the Ends Off. With new hair comes new beginnings. Maybe that top I couldn't pull off before will suddenly sit right on my shoulders. Maybe my shoulders will unclench, relax, fall back, and suit my new cool girl hair, and the top will look even better. Maybe I'll feel so unbelievably cool that I'll do away with the top altogether, throw out everything I own and start again with my new hair and my new clothes and my new life. This appointment is all about the new Caroline, the new cool Caroline. That's why I chose this salon, with its peeling on purpose wallpaper and vintage hairdressing chairs that seem neither practical or safe. Under normal circumstances, I might be put off by the chunk of fruit flesh floating along the rim of my complimentary juice, but today was not most days. I was even offered a glass of wine, but I politely declined. I believe anything anyone tells me after a drink, including someone who's telling me I can pull off a buzz cut. So no wine. Need to remain sharp. Need to think about my future. Need to stop thinking about the past. I read online that your hair carries emotions. Not so much that it can cry or scream, but more that as it grows, it holds the experiences and the feelings you have. So when you cut it off, it's a cathartic, simple way to sever ties with past pain. I was actually crying when I found this out. So on that particular night, my hair was doing a lot of emotional heavy lifting. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Caitlin, for sharing that piece. You read it beautifully. Next up, we have Carissa Venn. Carissa is a writer who lives in Western Massachusetts with her soon-to-be wife and her epileptic kitten. She received her MFA from the New School and works as a digital resource development editor at Oxford University Press. Her work has appeared in or is forthcoming in OK Donkey, Frictions Duly Noted, Pure Slush, Growing Up, and Bridge House Resolutions. Find her online at kven717 or carissaven.com. Welcome, Carissa.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me. I am going to read an excerpt from my flash piece, The Rolls. Every holiday, we make rolls. Not rolls cracked from a tube or slid from a tray. Never from a box. These rolls are laborious, a commitment. They take patience and grit. We run the tap, slipping our fingers under the water to check the temperature, fill a liquid measuring cup, and pour the water into a bowl wider than two of our faces together. Then the yeast. Yeast is tricky. Yeast is a living thing. Yeast needs our mom's touch. She sprinkles the yeast on the water with a pinch of sugar and stirs. Then we wait. Elbows on countertop, heels raised, we lean over the bowl, stare at the beige slop, and wait for the yeast to show itself. 5 minutes, 10, and the liquid foams like magic. The four of us fly through the next steps like professionals, barely needing our mom for them. She stands nearby, hands resting in apron pockets. We unwrap butter, warm on the counter, and fling it into the bowl. The wrappers leave globs of butter on our fingers. On our way to the sink, our mom instructs us to scrape those globs into the bowl. Nothing goes to waste here. We crack eggs, the sound confident and satisfying. The boys always beg for this job, but us girls are better at it, less concerned with the initial crack than with the slow pull of the shell into two halves, careful not to lose any shards in the bowl. Though we too enjoy that crack against the counter's edge. Who wouldn't? We pour the eggs from their separate bowl into the big one, where the yeast and butter are waiting. We scoop flour, white mountaintops flattened with a butter knife like our mom taught us. When we dump them into the bowl, the flour dusts our faces like a cloud. We spoon salt and sugar and toss them in. Our mom pulls a wooden spoon from a drawer and begins the slow work of stirring the pile of ingredients into dough. We watch this part. We hope that one day our arms will be long enough and strong enough for this. But for now, we watch and admire. Watch our mom stir the dough like it's nothing. Watch her abandon the spoon and use her hands instead. See the flour streaked on her apron, the curl bouncing from her ponytail, the sharp focus of her eyes. See the woman who birthed us into the world, the woman who is a professional at making something out of nothing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carissa. I could literally see that like a movie playing. Is so well written. Thank you so much for sharing. Next up, we have Connor Fallon. Connor is an amateur mathematician and writer from Dublin. He is the founder of the acid realism literary genre, or at least gave it its name. He cites Leonid Kantorovich and Eric Andrea's influences on his work. In 2021, he received an Emerging Young Artists Award from South Dublin County Council. Welcome, Connor.
I'll be reading from my piece, I suppose you could call it, DJ Daz, Ireland's 21st Century Cultural Revolutionary, and I'd like to dedicate it to Norm MacDonald, who sadly passed away earlier today. So DJ Daz was an Irish electronic musician, football theorist, short story writer, mathematician, and pornographer. Noted for his eclectic skill set, he first rose to fame as a musician during the Great Recession in Ireland, during which 250,000 young people emigrated, with those who remained turning to rave culture for solace from the endemic bleakness. Later, he became known for his writings, gaining notoriety for his fringe political views. Writing in the Irish Times, Colm Tóibín called DJ Daz the last great polymath of our age. Born in Crumlin, a working-class suburb of Dublin, DJ Daz's upbringing was fairly standard. He won his first short story competition aged 7, having unknowingly entered a competition for adults. Aged 14, he began experimenting with hashish, a substance to which he would develop a lifelong dependency. On hashish, DJ Daz noted, it expands your mind, you know? All these linearities shaped by your ma and dad and teachers are obliterated. And once that happens, your mind is free to go wherever it wants. Once you're free, your mind about a concept, about stuff being correct, you can do whatever you want. So nobody told me what to do, and there was no preconception of what to do. It was around this time that he discovered much of the music that was to influence his subsequent sound. He became obsessed with the steely, relentless rhythms of Underworld, the fragmented, paranoid lyrics of Carl Hyde, and the fleeting moments of optimism offered by Rick Smith's church-inspired synthscapes. The stony music of California band Warpaint was his favourite of the young DJ to listen to in his murderers. The music, layered by breathy female vocals and hugged by the hazy, groovy bass lines of Jenny Lee Lindbergh, was said by the DJ to have colours you couldn't even imagine. It was at a Warpaint gig in 2010 that DJ Daz met his calling in life, LSD. He later recalled, that gig was incredible. I've never been so out of it. It's what I imagine dying is like, some buzz. Now people can say that the acid can cause mental issues, and I will admit I've lost my mind more than once on the stuff, but I don't believe it'll lead to anything permanent. That said, ever since that gig, I've had this constant feeling that someone is standing behind me and pissing on my legs. Frankly, I've come to enjoy the feeling. The DJ spent the weekends in the run-up to his junior certificate taking LSD, then going out to see live music, taking in a range of genres: trad, folk, breakbeat techno, spoken word. Then he would come home, plug in his guitar, and strum away until the LSD wore off. DJ Daz wrote about these experiences in an essay published in the Dublin Review entitled My Beautiful Dark Hash Fantasy. So that was that. Hopefully that I really hope that recorded. Yeah, thank you for having me. All the pieces were very, very good. I look forward to reading them.
So I feel like you should be writing for Hot Press. Next we have Bríd McGinley. Bríd hails from County Donegal. She writes flash fiction, short stories, and has recently dabbled in creative non-fiction. Her work has appeared in Sonder Magazine, the Bangor Literary Journal, The Honest Ulsterman, The Bramley, and Flash Flood, and she has read at 10x9. Welcome, Bríd.
Thanks, Sinead and Orla. This is an extract from my piece, Fireflies in Daylight. Uncle Jimmy and Dad never talk because there is never enough time. Between playing with us, telling stories and teaching us tricks, and all the time he spends talking to Mam, Uncle Jimmy probably has no words left for Dad. Uncle Jimmy's eyes are blue like the sea on a bright day, just like Mam's, and his hair is black with springy curls that wrap around my finger. One night he lit a fire in the garden pit and sang a song about a cowboy and fireflies. Do fireflies burn? What happens to their light during the day? The song's words flickered in the wavy firelight, and I wondered if it was another type of magic that Uncle Jimmy had, how his words made me want to cry. I snuggled beside Mam, felt her body humming along. Even Dad stood at the back door and listened. The light behind him made him look like a dark night. But now it's too cold to sleep in the shed. Uncle Jimmy will sleep in the house. Maybe we'll play hide and seek. He might need to rest this time, Mam says, and her eyes don't sparkle. She watches the driveway, her hands playing in bubbly water, not washing any dishes. When Dad's car arrives, I see her knuckles white where she holds onto the sink. Dad helps an old man from the car. It's not Uncle Jimmy. He holds on to Dad. He has no hair, and his eyes are black skull sockets. Where is he? Eddie runs into the kitchen. Is he here? His hand already on the back door. No, I say, grabbing him, stopping him. It's a joke, a trick. Mam doesn't look at us. Instead, she pushes against the sink, rocking as if she hears a song in her head. I wait for the door to open. I wait for Uncle Jimmy to walk in, give us a pretend serious look, toss off his magic disguise. I wait for him to throw his arms around Mam, whirl her around the kitchen. Wait for him to shout, "Gotcha."
Thank you so much, Bríd. It's such a beautiful piece that really stays with you and is so heartbreaking. So thank you so much for sharing it with us. Next up, we have Beth Kilkenny. Beth writes poetry, short fiction, and essays. She has had her work published in the Galway Review, Lunate, and the York Literary Review. Welcome, Beth.
Thanks very much, Sinead and Ola, for inviting me this evening. I'm going to read my poem, Bed 41, after Tracy Emin. The bed I made takes up space, super king, to welcome small bodies in the small hours. Now their midnight absence creates a cotton polyester mix abyss as we cling to the edges out of habit and uncertainty. The bed I made is stained with bodies. Theirs, ours, mine. The bed I made is sex education, a supporting role as my son and I bond and blush over American sitcoms. The bed I made partakes passively in snatched, intermittent maintenance love. The bed I made shelters as my smallest lies her head against my shoulder, her hand on the hot water bottle, which rests on my aching belly, still soft from her stay. The bed I made is simmering, tired, malignant, ready. I lie in it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth. That is such a powerful piece. Thank you for reading it for us. So lastly, we have a reading from Aaron Keller-Strass. Aaron's work has appeared in The Pinch, the Spoon River Poetry Review, the Portland Review, Silkworm, Dodging the Rain, and The Honest Ulsterman. He is a freelance writer and amateur farmer who works and lives in the north of Ireland. Welcome, Aaron.
Hello, thanks for having me, and thanks to everyone. That's all really great. I'm going to read a short bit from my story, Paradise Gweedore. Sweeney scanned the beach for black clumps of seaweed, stuffing it into his bag in wet handfuls before it was scooped up by the wind. The canvas bag was tied tight on his body, but still flapped like a tattered white flag. The party was 2 days away, but he wanted to make sure he had enough food. He knew many people would come. They had to come. With the root he'd already scavenged, this was going to be a proper feast, a party people would remember. The wind howled across the Atlantic in gusts that nearly took Sweeney off his feet. He needed to get inside before the afternoon gale. He cinched the bag closer to his body. The seaweed reminded him of his mother's hair, the way it was wild and seemed to have grown out of the earth. But there wasn't time now for memory. He tightened his helmet and ducked down to get a chance in the wind. His goggles were scratched from the whips of sand, which made the world fuzzy enough to be tolerable. He checked the flyers on the way back to the hotel. The heavy staples had worked, and they were mostly still there, on every boarded window of every house, every tree, every flat surface he could find. If someone came in this area, they would have to see them. Of that, Sweeney was sure. He'd found an old hand-operated ditto machine in the basement of the hotel, sitting in the corner like a long, hibernating animal. The shelves were lined with replacement ink, and a few of the bottles had purple liquid hearts at their center. He stamped the invitation on any old paper he could find, cutting wallpaper into shapes that worked in the machine. He copied onto old newspapers announcing football matches, games and scores that didn't exist as soon as there was no one to remember them, as soon as there was no record. Sweeney wondered if there was anyone who remembered him, if there was still a tether attaching him to the rest of the world, or what was left of it. Was he lost to news like a football score, a war that didn't matter? Most people in Gweedore left when the real winds came, and the few who stayed didn't last long. But Sweeney was still here. The plants and trees unmoored from the earth and scattered, but old Sweeney was still here. This was his home, and he had no intention of leaving it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Aaron, for ending the night with such a haunting piece, getting us ready for the spooky season. That concludes our readings for the night. Thank you so much to all of the readers. You were all fantastic. We are so incredibly proud of issue 4, and we can't wait for everyone to get their hands on a copy. Before we go on, I'd like to interrupt and announce the winner of our giveaway. So anyone who pre-ordered a copy of issue 5 before Monday the 13th could opt into a draw to win a free fiction consultation with Jamie O'Connell from Blackwater Writing. Jamie is a best-selling author whose debut novel, Diving for Pearls, is out now and is linked in the description box below. He is also a creative writing teacher with years of experience. On his Instagram and TikTok, he offers editorial and writing advice from writing a cover letter to an agent to how to avoid typos and so on. He runs workshops and webinars on the regular, so I really advise having a look at his website if you're a writer. I'll link it in the description box below. So without further ado, I've put all the names into a random name generator, and I will click now to see who has won. So our winner is Brendan Palmer. Congratulations to Brendan. We will be in touch with the details.
Congratulations, Brendan, and thank you so much to everyone that pre-ordered and for watching the launch tonight. We hope you loved it as much as we loved being a part of it. I know we may sound like a broken record, but we really do appreciate getting the chance to showcase the wonderful work of our contributors. So thank you so much to everyone for taking part tonight. If you would like to read more beautiful pieces, you can pre-order your copy of issue 5 now on our website. It will also be available to purchase in the Winding Stairs, Marrowbone Books, Waterstones Court, and many more brilliant stores around Ireland from next week. We'll have them listed on our website soon. Keep an eye on our social media pages for updates on when issue 5 will be on its way to your doorstep. We all hope you've all had a wonderful night, and we'll see you next time.